Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome another episode of Be You, part of Supermom's Magic Circle. Today we have Cindy Baker, and she's a productivity coach and ADHD specialist. Can't wait to hear more from her. Hello, Cindy, and welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. So Cindy is from USA, and I can't wait to hear what do you have to share with us. Can you please tell us a bit about your business and what you do at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm the founder of CBC, which stands for Cindy Baker Coaching, and I'm a productivity coach, a speaker, and a ADHD specialist. So I help entrepreneurs and other creative professionals kind of get over that sense of overwhelm, manage their time and their energy and their focus so they can grow their business and have more impact.
That's fantastic. I love that. So, talk with us a bit more about productivity and why do we get stuck and we don't do anything and we just procrastinate?
Yeah, sometimes we do kind of overthink things, and then we just stare at this big project and we're frozen. So there are a lot of different reasons, but some people want to feel motivated before they'll do something. And I always say waiting for motivation is never a good strategy because you're living by your feelings when you do that. So you have to learn how to act before you feel like it. And then what happens is that sometimes the momentum kicks in and the motivation comes, uh, as you're taking action.
I love
But
that.
people get frozen for many reasons. They're waiting for motivation, or they don't know where to start. They don't know what to do. Uh, lots of little things that we say to ourselves in our head that keep us stuck.
Yeah. So, what's the secret? What would you say? It's one first step. What can we do to actually take action without motivation?
Well, I think instead of thinking about managing time, think about managing focus and energy and attention. That's more important because if you can pay attention throughout a couple of days, just kind of do an audit and pay attention to your energy cycles, then you can plan to do the things that are the most important when you're the most alert. For instance, I am more mentally alert in the morning with my cup of coffee.
Right.
If I'm going to do writing or something like that, I don't want to wait till late in the afternoon when I'm tired and hungry. And, you know, um, so planning around your energy cycles is one thing. And then you need to figure out what activities have the most impact. Some people call those hits or high impact tasks. And you pick no more than three a day. And that's hard for some people because they want to live off this giant to-do list and everything is equally important. But that's not the case. There are some things, especially if you're a business owner, you want the majority of your tasks to be revenue producing. So if you're spending 2 hours on Canva trying to get the perfect font and color for some design, that is not a good use of your time. Yeah, but if you're
Mm.
sales calls, that that probably is. So you have to find out what your energy cycles are, pick your priorities, and then I teach a method called and I didn't make this up, but it's called the sprint method. And so you set a timer and you get rid of all distractions, put your phone in the other room if you have to, and you just work for a concentrated period of time, 30, 60, 90 minutes, that kind of goes with your natural energy rhythms. And then when the timer goes off, you can stop and you take a little break. But somehow that tricks your brain into getting started because then you think, well, I only have 30 minutes. I can do it. And sometimes you just have to break it down so small that you take the next tiny little step. Like let's go back to writing. Let's say you don't feel like it. Well, you can say to yourself, and these are just little mind tricks. You can say to yourself, well, I'm just going to go sit in the chair in front of the computer. I can do that, right? So that's a tiny little step, quick win, you know. You go and sit in the chair, and then you think, well, I can turn on the computer. Well, I can pull up the document. I can find the last sentence that I wrote. I can write the next. You see, and you just kind of back it up into tiny little steps until before you know it, you're writing, you know. So
That's
I don't know if
fantastic.
that helps.
Absolutely, Cindy. Thank you so much. Lots of value in there. And I always mention that it's so important. Where do we focus our energy? And I'm glad you mentioned that doing the most impactful things first because you really want to move forward. So if you focus even in your business or in just in your life, okay, so what's the next step to make me achieve my goal for today or for the week or for the month? So that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing it. Now let's go a little bit back into the ADHD. I know you call yourself ADHD specialist. Can you just make us understand what is ADHD and how it's manifesting?
Yeah, it stands for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which I hate that term because we don't have a lack of attention. We just focus on too many things at the same time. And there's an inattentive type. So not everybody's hyper either, but anyway, that is the term, and it's a neurological disorder. So it's not a character flaw. It's not laziness or anything like that. It's not a mental illness. It's a neurological disorder where your brain just doesn't release the amount of dopamine that others do. And what happens is your brain is reactive and it just reacts to whatever's in the immediate vicinity instead of what's important sometimes, you know. So uh you can't tune things out as easily as other people. So distractions feel bigger when you have ADHD. um and it's
Right.
characterized by, uh, focus problems, procrastination, uh, sometimes uh, trouble managing emotions. Um, Time management is an issue. They have
Right.
what they
So,
call time blindness. You might have heard that term. So that means that they're going to be rushed and running late and doing things at the last minute and forgetting things and stuff like that.
okay. So it's a case of your brain works slightly different, right? So from my understanding, it's not that you have certain issues in focusing necessary. It's more you're kind of overthinking maybe, and you feel like overwhelmed quite a lot. So you just need to be very careful in what task you do. I remember I have a friend, and she mentioned to me that she finds it very hard to read a book. But
Mhm.
once she found out she has ADHD, then she learned what task and what things she can do to help her. So she started listening to audiobooks, and she said is not feeling so draining. So that's one thing that she said to me. So what sort of problems your clients have if they are facing ADHD? Because to be honest, majority of us in certain way, maybe we can relate to that. I think our brain, is kind of, we all have a little bit of ADHD in us.
Yeah, and I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I read a statistic somewhere, I can't remember where, that said 60% of entrepreneurs have ADHD, or at least those symptoms, you know. So uh, along with the challenges, there are some benefits, and that creativity and that out of the box thinking, risk taking, that works well for an entrepreneur, you know. But some of my clients, I mentioned time, some of them really struggle in that area. A person with ADHD really just lives in two time periods, now and not now. And there's
Right,
nothing in between. So if your brain, if there's some kind of a task that has a excuse me, a far off deadline, then your brain says, oh, that's not now, so I don't have to think about it right now, and you just forget about it. But what needs to happen is there needs to be a little bit of work done along the way to get to that deadline. Um, because otherwise you're going to be waiting until the last minute. And people are with ADHD are notorious for um, saying, "Oh, well, I work better under pressure," and that may not be the case. It's a very stressful way to live, and it does take a toll. Another thing that they do besides waiting until the last minute is they over schedule. They get overcommitted in their schedule. And a lot of us do that. We do that because we're people pleasers. We don't know how to say no. Or we're, for ADHD people, another characteristic is impulsivity. So sometimes they'll just have a knee jerk reaction and just say, yes, without thinking of all the things they already have in their calendar. Excuse me. And so, and sometimes it's just what we call FOMO, fear of missing out. I
Mm-hmm.
want to do everything. Um, and that does take a toll. And so that's another area that's a struggle is time management. Some of them really struggle with clutter as well, which you wouldn't necessarily connect with ADHD, but I've really seen that as an issue. Um, and it's hard for them to focus if they've got clutter, if they got papers, piles of paper everywhere. And I used to, before I was diagnosed with ADHD, I had piles of paper everywhere because, uh, I was afraid that if I put them away, I'd forget about it. It was sort of like out of sight, out of mind. And I have a background as an educator, and I was a school counselor, and I had these piles of paper all in my office, but I didn't know I had ADHD, and that's actually how I learned about it. Is I have a master's in counseling, and I was learning about adolescent ADHD, and I thought, I think I have this. So I recognized those signs. But clutter can be a real issue. Um, Even
So,
digital clutter,
so
not being
how
able to find stuff, you know.
That's amazing. I love your story and sounds to me like you have so many knowledge and so many skills there. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. This is really pure value. I appreciate it. So what would you say it's your secret to declutter? How can we start doing that? Because like you said, the pile of paper and the mess around you occupy space in your mind. And yes, probably we all experience that if we go in someone's house and they have everything so nice and tidy and almost no furniture whatsoever. You feel so much better. You have more space. And then if you
Right.
enter in someone else's house when they have like lots of things, I'm like, you feel like, oh, I'm suffocating. Like literally, you need more space. So the
Yeah.
same. So what would you say? How can someone start decluttering? Or
Yeah. And that you brought up a good point that when your physical environment is cluttered, it does make your brain feel cluttered. You feel a little bit anxiety, like it almost feels like you have more to do when you look around and see a bunch of stuff. And I have a group coaching program, and we have there's a knowledge vault with a bunch of recorded trainings, and I also meet on Zoom in person. And I have a 4-part series on clutter in that training. I also have another one on managing piles of paper and another one on email. So I go into detail there, but I would say for your listeners, just one tiny thing to do to start is to take 5 minutes at the beginning and the end of every day to just do a little bit of decluttering. So at the end of the day, clear off your workspace. I always write down my 3 priorities for the next day, and I leave it sitting on my desk. So when you come in, whether it's your home office or if you work outside of the home, you immediately sit down and you see your priorities, and you don't see a bunch of stuff everywhere. So even if it means like I have, you can't see my setup here, but I have a chest of drawers, a wooden chest of drawers that's the same wooden color as my desk that sits right next to it. And that's kind of like my filing cabinet. And sometimes if I haven't had a chance to file things or whatever, I will actually just pick up the stuff and put it in that drawer temporarily so that I don't have it in front of me. And the only thing you should have in front of you is what you're working on. Same thing in your house. If you just take 5 minutes and do kind of a surface clean. Now, if you want to go through your whole house, I tell people get a laundry basket or something like that and just walk through every room and pick up things that don't go in that room. Just throw them in the basket and then just kind of go through. And as you go to the next room, if there's something in the basket that should have been in that room, you put it away, almost like a grocery store clerk would like restock the shelves. So that's just kind of a surface clean. And then you really want to declutter. You want to go through bit by bit, room by room, and you want to have three piles. Keep and put away, or throw away, or sell or give away. So things that you want to keep, they all need a home. You can't just everyone in your house should know where things are kept. So no one should be running around the house looking for a pair of scissors. Everybody should know the scissors are in this drawer, and that's where they live. And so when you get them out, you put them back there.
That's
So
phenomenal. Thank you, Cindy, so
little
much.
things like that, and they make a difference. The little things make a difference.
Absolutely, yes, and I can relate so much. And thank you. That's a huge step moving forward. I love the 5 minutes before starting the day, be 5 minutes after you finish your work, because you start so fresh when everything is so clean and so tidy, and you're just ready to go. And having the list
Yeah.
with the three things you want to work on today, I love that as well. Thank you. Really, really lovely hearing that. And I'm sure whoever is listening to us, they will start implementing. If they really want to change your life, they can start doing it straight away, and that will help a lot. So I can relate so much with productivity and even ADHD when you said that the focus and when we are starting so many things, even as a mom. So if we talk about motherhood, you are starting, let's say you want to cook, right? So you go in the kitchen, you start cooking something, and then you see something else. Oh, this needs to go out. Or maybe you want to put it in the trash, and then you take the trash, and then you are outside, and you see outside something else. And so, it's one of those, you start so many things and you don't really finish what you started. And I can
Yeah.
see the same thing applies in my clients' lives sometimes, especially when they work for their business as an entrepreneurs, because I mainly work with coaches, healers, therapists, and they start a new workshop. They work on that. They are halfway through and they're, oh no, I want to move into group coaching. They start
Right.
a new program for group coaching, like, oh no, actually I want to go and do a summit. And, actually they don't really finish what they started.
Hmm.
Is that a lack of productivity, or is ADHD, or what would you say from your experience? Why is that happening?
Yeah, it could be both. Uh, because it doesn't have to be ADHD. There's a lot more criteria that goes into it. Um, but in the world of entrepreneurs, we always talk about chasing shiny objects because it's a difficult job being an entrepreneur. It's hard. I was telling my husband that yesterday. I said, this is hard. You know, um, you don't have a steady income. It's up and down. And so it's so tempting to listen to the latest guru say, this is what you need. You need to do this. And then you abandon what you were working on and you chase this shiny object. And not to say that you shouldn't shift and switch gears if something's not working. But if you're doing that all the time, then you just, it's like you're a little hamster on the wheel. You're just busy, 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 but you're not getting anywhere. So I think that goes back to what I said about now and not now. I think that we have to um, set our own deadlines. We're going to work better with a deadline. If no one else is giving us one, then we have to set it ourselves. And we have to say, I signed up for this program. I'm going to give myself until this date to finish it. Write it on your calendar and then back it up. You know, like I have a course I sell called the Productive Professional, and it's 4 modules. So let's say you gave yourself a month and you said, every week I'm going to complete 1 module. And you make your own little schedule. And yes, you could cheat because it's your schedule, but you're more likely to finish something if you've written it down and planned it and scheduled it than not. So that's something to try, if folks haven't tried it. And um, the initial excitement of a new thing is always going to feel more fun than than finishing. Once you get into the weeds of the details, it's not as fun. Um,
Yeah.
but
And
you can also write things down after you finish something. Write down what went well, what didn't, and then kind of like a after action report, so that the next time you can just go through your checklist. Well, I need to do this, this, and this. I know not to do that again. And the last time I said I was going to add this part, and then as you do it, it becomes easier, you know,
mm,
whether
that's
it's running a
amazing.
summit or something like that.
Yes. And all, yeah, that sounds so good. And also, another thing I would like to add is that when we start feeling challenging, and especially when we're out of our comfort zone, so let's say you started your new workshop, yeah, so you started working on it, and then fear kicks in, like, oh, maybe it's not good enough, or maybe nobody will sign up. And this is when you get stuck. Instead of passing through that fear and take action, because clarity is actually it's a bridge between stress and action. So you get into the stress zone, which actually you don't take action. And then it's easier, like you said, to move to something more shiny. Oh, a new idea, let me try that. And then you start going maybe with the membership group or whatever it's in your mind because it's clear. And guess what? It's going to happen again unless you go
Mhm.
back. So this is, I say to my clients, this is actually when you feel it's a challenge and you feel it's challenging, that's good. Go for it. You don't have to wait to be ready for it. Just go for it because that's a sign you are going out of your comfort zone. And guess what? The things that you really want to achieve are outside of your comfort zone. So
That's right.
I I love that. I love everything you said so far. So you mentioned about a few courses that you do. Can you tell us more about what else can people find in your business? What else do you offer at the moment?
Yeah. Well, there are different levels, and the best thing is the coaching program, because that's when you actually have interaction with me personally on Zoom. I don't hand people off to another coach. I'm actually the one who helps them. I keep the group small so that everybody gets individual attention. Um, there's a couple of levels to that. It's called Focus to Fortunes. So you manage you manage your focus, and then you by default are going to do better in your business. But I have had people go through my program that are not entrepreneurs. I've had people who have ADHD, people who don't have ADHD, but everybody needs to learn time management, organization. I do have some standalone courses and workshops that I do. The best thing would be just for folks to get on my email list, and then they hear about new things that come up. I don't spam. I give tips every week, and then if there's an event coming up, I'll let people know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they can do that. I actually will give your listeners a free course on how to beat procrastination. So they could get that at waitnomore.net. And I'll send you all the links you can put in your show notes. But in order to get that course, they get on my email list, and then they'll find out about all the different things going on. But there's standalone courses, like I mentioned, the Productive Professional. And I'm currently, at the time we're recording this, giving away a month free of coaching as a bonus when you buy that course. So that way people
Wow.
can see if they like it. So I don't
Nice.
know how long I'll offer that because it's kind of a big deal. But yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. So I will definitely take all your details and people will know exactly where to find you. And I really have to say that it was amazing to have you here. And thank you for sharing everything. Before I let you go, can you please tell me how your life changed since you started implementing your strategy? So since you started doing your time management, your prioritizing and understanding more of everything you do. How that changed for you? Or maybe if you have a
Yeah,
story as well. Hmm.
that's a great question. As I said, I grew up, nobody was really talking about ADHD. And then they did, it was all only with, in reference to boys. So I was struggling. And as I learned more about ADHD and I went and got my diagnosis, I kind of tried to learn everything that I could about adult ADHD. And I tried different strategies, tried to figure out what worked, what didn't. And once I put together a framework of routines and habits, it was a game changer. I mean, I went from being all over the place, chaos, no stability in my life, changing jobs all the time, just late, rushed, stressed, to not just having that one master degree, but I earned two master degrees, had a long-term stable career as a level five teacher and school counselor, married the love of my life. I'm a grandma and a dog mom. And I started and I'm running a successful business all while having ADHD. So, and I started the business while I was still teaching. I just
Mm.
recently retired, so that now I'm a full-time entrepreneur. But I could never have done that without, having these new strategies. And my whole philosophy is to teach people how to work with the way their brain is wired. I'm in some of these so-called support groups for ADHD, and they just want to whine and complain and blame all their problems on ADHD, and why can't everybody understand me? And uh, I just don't buy into that. I think that there are some incredibly successful people who even attribute their success to having ADHD. Like the billionaire Sir Richard Branson, the founder of JetBlue Airlines. I could go on and on. So once you learn how to leverage your brain's focus, then you can be unstoppable, because there are some benefits to having a brain that's different. So that's kind of my philosophy. I teach what I call 3P power: positive, prepared, productive. And that positive is a big one.
So powerful, and everything you say, your story, it's amazing. Your story is a transformational story. So I'm so glad for everything you do, and I'm so grateful that you're helping more people going through the transformation journey because it's so important. Thank you so much for being here, and I loved every single moment. Yeah. Is there a final message you'd like to leave the audience before you go, or is there a quote that you go by?
Yeah, just some people listening may not think they have what it takes to change. Maybe they've tried before and they just don't believe in themselves. And I just want to tell them you do have what it takes. It's just that no one's shown you how before. So reach out to me or somebody else and get the help that you need and take those steps to move forward, because um, it's so fulfilling to me to kind of see that hope in people's eyes when they realize there's another way to live. And I believe everybody was created on purpose, for a purpose, and made to thrive. And you can do that when you learn how to work with the way your brain is wired and you understand it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. This was Cindy Baker, and she is phenomenal productivity coach and also ADHD specialist. As you heard, lots of good value from her. Thank you again, Cindy. And everyone, thank you for listening, and we will see you again with another episode, part of BU Project. Take care and keep on smiling. Bye.